Yeah, it's going down, man. It's Donnie Houston Podcast. I am Donnie Houston. Check it out, man. We got a very special guest today. Representing H-Town, man. He's in town. You know what I'm saying? H-Town's finest, man. When we talk about producers, you know what I mean? We've had some on here that have represented the culture, you know what I mean, as far as in the hip-hop side. But then you also got, you know, some other producers, man, that really took it, you know, above and beyond, man. And today's guest has done that, man. I'm talking about 9-time Grammy Award winner. I could be wrong. It could be more than 9.
It's
but I'm
9.
Nine-time Grammy Award winner. Bryan-Michael Cox, what's going down, bro?
Man, I'm good, D. I'm good, man. Just, you know, good to be home, you know, especially with this pandemic going down. So it's good to be able to be home, be safe, and be with the family, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Yes, sir.
So what's new with you, man? What you been working on musically and all that?
It's crazy, man. The pandemic's been interesting, man. We did I started the year off really good with Usher. We did Don't Waste My Time.
Don't Waste My Time.
I worked with Division on their album, I'm Using Our Feelings. We did a record called For Us. I did also a record with them and Future, No Crying in the Club. Jadakiss joint. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I had a few I started off the year, started off really great, then freaking the pandemic hit.
Some shit came out of nowhere.
You know what I mean? Out of nowhere. And then in the midst of that, though, we ended up doing, you know, me and Jermaine kind of, you know, we were working remotely. I was working at the house, he was working at the studio. We did that song Change. Yeah. So that took a few months to pull together, but we pulled together, you know, Gary Clark and, you know, Rotimi and, you know, Angel and, you know, a bunch of people, Anthony Hamilton, you know, we did that with Jonte and Neo. And then as the end of the year started coming around, you know, I made a transition to LA, you know, just kind of going out there when I was able to start traveling, go out there and just kind of start creating opportunities out there. And when it was Justin Timberlake, you know, when it was this guy named Derek Malloy, we was writing songs for everybody from Rihanna to Cardi, you know what I mean? So I've just been able to kind of like, you know, try to take advantage of the pandemic while everybody's kind of, you know.
Or is it a standstill?
Standstill. Where I can move, I try to move. And, you know, I'm taking mad tests. I've been doing like 2 tests a week, you know what I mean? Because you know, we did a week with Justin Timberlake, so, you know, you had to do a test before, a test in the middle, a test after, you know what I mean? But, you know, I've been trying to, you know, we've been figuring out how to power through this thing, you know what I mean? It's been good. I can't complain, man.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, talk about though, because I mean, like I said, I've had producers on the show. You know what I'm saying, from the city. You know what I mean, and you know, contributions amazing, but you kind of took a different route. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You really, you know, left the city, got on, you know, got on with JD, did your whole thing. Man. But just talk about how it even started for you in the H though. Well, not even from the H, because you're from, is it Miami?
Well, I was born in Miami, but I'm from here, man. I was born there. I spent summers in Miami, but you know, I was raised here. My mom moved here in 1979, bro. So you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I'm from the Southwest. So I lived my whole life on the Southwest growing up.
Were you going to like Johnston and all that over there?
I didn't go to Johnston. I went to Welch.
Yeah.
And then from Welch, I went to HSPVA.
PVA. Yeah.
So what happened was, man, you know, long story short, when I started like really trying to get in the game, you know, you were doing singing groups and stuff like that, and you were in this back in the day. I don't know how old you are, D, but back in the day, there was a thing called a People's Workshop. And People's Workshop was like, that's where I met pretty much anybody who is a music person, you know, in the city.
So this is going on in Houston?
Yes. So back in the day, People's Workshop, I mean, that's where I met Beyonce, LaToya, Latavia. That's where I met Judith. That's where I met, you know what I mean? Like people who.
Okay, so, but how old are you going to this though?
This is like 93. So I might have been about 15 at the time, 14, 15 at the time.
So at that time, 15. You were already trying to put the group together?
Yeah, I was in a group already at 15. You know what I'm saying? And we were, I might have been 16, 15, 16. So we were aggressively trying to get on, you know what I'm saying? You know, and you know, doing talent shows and the whole nine. And there were groups out at the time. So of course, H-Town was out at the time. Ideal had a record deal at the time. There's a group called Groove You at the time that had a deal with Atlantic. And, you know, we ended up, you know, having a mentor out of Groove You, a guy named Tehran, who's from Harlem Clark, who songwriter, doing his thing at the time. and he kind of took us under his wing. You know what I mean? And then from there, I met Greg Curtis. Through him and this other guy named Abby, I met Greg Curtis, and then Greg. At the same time, I met this guy named Preston Middleton, who was also like, just these are OGs. Preston and Greg were like OGs. You know what I mean? And once I got with Greg, it just became, apparent that producing was something that I really, really wanted to do. Like I would say it and I would do it, but once I was able to work with Greg, it became like a reality for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only do I want to do it, I actually can do it. You know what I'm saying?
So, are you still in the group at this time? Like, how old are you at this time when you had this epiphany?
All this happened simultaneously. So I'm still in the group. Cause I still had like aspirations to be an artist and all of that. You know what I mean? And then of course, like I said, we're writing songs. I'm looking at Tehran, who was in a group called Groove You. They're signed to Atlantic. They're going back and forth in New York, working with the Untouchables and, Kenny Smooth, all these guys in New York. And he's bringing this information back. You know what I mean? So I'm getting that data. You know what I'm saying? Greg is, doing Keith Sweat and Teddy Riley, doing like music direction for them, Tone. He leaves. I'm getting that data, and then I'm going to HSPVA. So I'm getting all the data at the school. So I'm going to school with, Robert Glass was my best friend. Going to school with Glass. We're going to school with Donnie Scantz. Going to school, you know what I mean? These are people who I'm around every day. So I'm just getting all this information, from all over the place. You know what I mean? At the same time, around the time I met Beyonce and Kelly, LaToya, Latavia, and
are y'all all on like an underground scene or something? Like, how do you?
Well, they were moving kind of already. Like, like we all were doing talent shows and shit together, but they were already kind of further along than we were. You know what I'm saying? And Beyonce and LaToya ended up coming to my high school. So while my senior high school, they ended up coming as freshmen. So we already kind of knew each other, and it was cool. They knew that I was writing songs and stuff like that, and I would always hound them, like, yo, I got another song, you know what I mean? And I think I might have been one of like the very few people at the school that knew that they were in a record deal. You know what I mean? They were getting a record deal. You know what I mean?
So they didn't have any records out, but they were.
Yeah,
they were there.
they were like at the last stage of signing a deal with Columbia, and I knew this. You know what I'm saying? Because I was friends with them. So I would hound them, give them on a regular basis, like, yo, I got another song. And of course, when you're young and you want to work with your friends. So what happened was, Beyonce and LaToya were like, hey, we want to work with Brian. Brian's our friend, and he writes good songs, and he's our age, and you want to hang with people in your age group. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was like, they came to the studio and we did, and this is funny, it was crazy around the time. It was one of our best friends, Scooby, who passed away. Me, Scooby, Tehran, and Greg were like a writing team. You know what I mean? It's like my first time being like in a team of writers and learning from that information, getting that information too. So they came and we did a song called Hey DJ, we did another song called Sweetie Pie, and I'll never forget it. It was like, that was the day. I was like, oh yeah, I'm in Houston. I gotta go figure out how to do this. You know what I mean? And I felt like at that point too in Houston, it was not really any outlets. We're talking about 96, 95, 96.
There's nothing going on, especially on the R&B side.
Yeah, R&B tip, nothing. You know what I mean? Hip hop, yes. Rap a lot had it on lock, and Tony Draper was out here. Draper had it on lock. You know what I mean? But it was all hip hop. It wasn't no R&B. Nothing happened out here. So it was either you do gospel or you're going to do hip hop. You know what I mean? And I desperately wanted to do R&B, and it was like there was no outlet here at the time, and I was young, so it wasn't. So even the idea of like, oh, let me start something and build something out here, it wasn't even in my mind, because I'm in high scholl, and I'm like, man, I don't even know how to.
I need to get on.
Yeah, like I don't even, I'm working at Astro World and Eckerd's. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna start something. You know what I mean? At that point, and then so I was like, I gotta figure this out. And I remember Greg made a decision to move to LA, And I was going to move to LA at the time. I was graduating high school, and I was like, yo, my first year out of high school, I went to Texas Southern. And I was like, I got to figure this out. And Greg was like, I'm going to LA. I was like, I'm going to figure LA out. And something was like, nah, you know, you need to go to Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that energy was, it was a girl I was dating at the time. She was going to Atlanta. I was in love with her, and I was like, hey, well, you're not going to leave me and go to Atlanta. You know what I mean? So that was like the push, though, because I was already thinking Atlanta, but then when she decided she was going to get Atlanta, I was like, oh, I'm going to Atlanta. So then I ended up applying for school to go to Clark, and I got accepted. Went to Atlanta. And so when I went to Atlanta, I was in a city.
So you get there. What year you get there?
It's 97.
Ooh,
97.
Man.
So I get to Atlanta, and there is just a overflow of opportunity just presenting itself on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? Because Atlanta was, all the labels were there. There was LaFace there, Dark was there, So Def was there. Like, it was a bunch of labels that were really popping in 97 that was, basically making the music for the world.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And they were based in Atlanta, and because of that ecosystem of, just money, of just opportunity, there were a lot of offshoots, a lot of production companies just popping up, and there were opportunities. And I was able to land an opportunity with Noontime Music just because it was just like, it was so many production companies in Atlanta because there was so much opportunity. And I ended up getting with Noontime, and then through that, I met Brian and Brandon Casey from Jagged Edge. And I met Jonte Austin too during that period.
So are they all around there? What are they just trying to?
They're writing. Everybody's writing. Everybody's songwriting. So Brian and Brandon were already writing songs for people, at Noontime. 112 was down there writing. Noontime was like this hub it's like a studio where a lot of people just came to do work, whether it was writing or whether it was producing, or if you was an artist and nobody took you seriously as a writer, you would come down there and get your writing chops up. You know what I mean? It was just a thing. You know what I mean? And they were able to pull all these creatives together. And that is where the genesis of like the opportunities started happening. So I was able to get my training here with Greg and with T and with, you know what I mean? Going to PVA and being around the people who were like-minded. But in Atlanta, I was able to really get the opportunity to show.
Put it all into work.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I signed a Noontime. Me and Brian and Brandon start working together. And then from there, they go take the songs that we made and they play them for Jermaine. Now, mind you, simultaneously, Noontime was working my songs too.
And so I'm saying, who are y'all trying to write? Who are you intending these songs to be for?
Well, initially with Brian and Brandon, we were trying to write for anything that was social death. So we were writing for Escape. We was writing for, Usher. Jermaine was working on Usher. We were writing for, anything that was, R&B based that Jermaine might need help with. You know what I mean? This before I met JD.
Are they plugged in with him?
Yeah, because Brian and Brandon Casey are in Jagged Edge. They're twins in Jagged Edge.
Oh, so they already signed.
They were already signed.
Okay,
to
I got
you.
you.
Yeah,
I got
you know what I'm
you.
saying? That's how the plug happened.
So they already got Gotta Be out and
yeah. The first album was out already. They're already, you know what I mean? They're plugged in with JD. That's how I got to JD, was through them. You know what I mean? But as I'm with Noontime, I'm writing with Jonte. I'm writing with other writers there, and they're working my songs from a different perspective. So I think the first opportunity I got was I worked this group called Profile, and I produced a remake for Stevie Wonder's Overjoyed for Profile. That was the first check I ever got. You know what I'm saying? As a producer, I charged them $12,000. I had never seen that kind of, money in my life. You know what I'm saying?
Checks with that boy.
And then Chris calls my manager. Chris, who's my manager to this day. Chris calls me. He was like, "Yo, do you know these guys from Houston, man? This is a group from Houston, man." And, my girl manages them. And my homegirl, Carmenica, manages them. He's like, "Yo, do you know this group? They're called Ideal." I was like, "Hell yeah, I know Ideal." You know what I mean? Donnie Scance is like my cousin. I'm like, "I know it." You're like, "Yeah, of course, that's family." So then I called Donnie like, yo, Chris just called me about like working with Ideal. I was like, yeah, man, we talked to them. You know, we're gonna come down and we're gonna do some songs with you. I was like, hell yeah. So they come to Atlanta and we make the first song we make is Creep In. So Creep In was a song that I did for Jagged Edge originally. They were on tour because Gotta Be It blew up, and they were doing promotional tours. So they would come in town, we do hooks, whatever, and they'd leave and we come back and finish. So Creep In was a hook that they hadn't finished yet, and when Ideal heard it, they wanted it, and Jonte was in the studio at the time, and I was like, yo, man, can you write verses to this song? And he ended up writing the verses to it, you know, to Creep In, and that was the first song that I did with Ideal. You know what I mean? And then we ended up doing Get Gone later, like maybe a couple weeks later, and I ended up writing Get Gone. I ended up having my first trip to LA was going to LA to cut the song with Ideal. My first time ever going to LA. And I went to go cut the song with them, and you just knew it was going to be special. It was like it felt like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Now it feels okay. I think I know. You know what I mean? And at the same time, I was working with Brian and Brandon pretty much every day they were in town. So we were making songs like, you know, What You're Trying to Do For It and Healing and, you know.
Because that's what you were telling me what you're trying to do. That was supposed to be for Usher or something like that.
We did that song for Usher. Let me tell you what's crazy. They wouldn't play these songs for Jermaine to submit for other artists. Jermaine heard the songs and were like, yo, this y'all album. You know what I mean? Like, who's the guy making these songs with y'all? And that's how I ended up going and working with Jermaine. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like, they went to go play the songs for him for some other people. It was like, we made like 30 songs.
That's what I was going to say. Okay, how many of them songs ended up being from that? Or did y'all make anything new for the album once y'all decided y'all
He Can't Love You was new. Once Jermaine heard the songs, then I started working with him. The very first song we did was Keys to the Range, and then the very next song we did was Let's Get Married. You know what I'm saying?
Come on,
so
man.
These are the first two songs that me and Jermaine ever did together. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, and then from there,
Wait. So tell me this though, because tell me how you finally meeting Jermaine Dupri. You know what I mean? Because this is JD. You know what I mean? Like,
it's crazy. So what happened was, they went and played the songs for Jermaine. Then Jermaine was like, yo, I wanna meet this kid, right? So they were like, yo, Jermaine wants to meet you. They hooked up the meeting. So I rode with them. Cause that time I was broke, I had no car, you know what I mean? I rode with them to Rio Mall. It's a mall that was on Ponce de Leon in Atlanta. It's not there anymore. But rode in Rio Mall. Chris Tucker had a comedy club in Rio Mall. And they were doing a showcase for Trina Broussard, who's from Houston. She was signed to So Def during that period. They were doing a showcase for her. And that's where I met JD for the first time, you know. And he was like, yo, man, I heard your stuff. And I'm gonna be at you. You know, I'm gonna call Ryan because Noontime was Chris, Ryan, and Noonie. So he was like, I'm gonna call Ryan and we're gonna work it out and I'm gonna be at you. I was like, cool. So that was my first time meeting him. I didn't talk to him again for like another month. You know, I didn't hear from him for like a month. And a month later, he calls me at my house. He's like, yo, man, you ready? I'm ready. You know? I was like, all right, cool. And then Ryan, Chris, and Noon, and Terry, who was another partner in Noontime, they took me to his house, to Jermaine's house. This is when Jermaine had the studio at the crib. Took me to the crib, and he was working on like there was an artist back in the day named Mona Lisa. And he was working on a remix for Mona Lisa. And I met him, you know, I met him at the spot before, but we didn't really talk. This is my first time really talking to him when I went to the house. And we were just talking about equipment and, you know, what you use, this is what I use. And he was showing me the stuff in the studio. And I'm okay, cool, you know. And he was like, yo, so I'm gonna finish this remix up, and then, you know, we should do a song tonight. I was like, okay, well, cool, you know. So we do Keys to the Range. You know, doing Keys to the Range that night. And then after we do that song, he's like, yo, man, can you come back tomorrow? I was like, yeah. You know, shit, I want to come back every day. Like, what do we do?
How was the workflow when y'all going in there? You kind of just like starting out for melodies and he's coming behind you with the
Well,
drum,
no, Keys to the Range was interesting because there's a couple of like chops in there. There's a Parliament chop in there. So he had, the drums weren't there yet, but he had like the chop
Got it
already,
framed out,
right?
yeah.
So he played me the chop. There was no drums yet. It was just the sample. And he was like, he said, I want to do something like this, but I want to be able to take the sample out. So can we do something that feels like this? Can you do something on top of this? Now take the sample out. I was like, cool. So then I did a little melody thing, and then we took the sample out, and then he did the drums. And then this was my first time experiencing Jermaine, the songwriter. I didn't realize Jermaine was a songwriter too at the time. But at the time you have this vision of like, especially back then, it's Puff, it's JD, it's Dre. You're thinking, oh, they're just in there making beats, and they got like a gang of, beat dats. You know what I mean? They just, But it wasn't that with JD. JD's a person who likes to see an idea all the way through. So he wrote the hook to Keys to the Range. And it was my first time like witnessing, him writing. But then I'm like, Keys to the Range was a fast song, so the rapper in him, that's the way I kind of deducted. Like, okay, well, he's a rapper, so he's gonna write the hook. If you listen to the hook, Keys to the Range is kind of like a rappy kind of thing anyway. So the twins came and they did the song. They write hella fast. They wrote the verses, and that was our first song. So he was like, "Yo, okay, cool. Can you come tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll come tomorrow." So the next day, I come back, and I come back early in the day, and it's just me and him there. And he's like, "Yo, man, can you come up with like a church progression, man? I need like some gospel. I need them to do something that's kind of churchy." I was okay, cool. So I come up with the progression that ends up being "Let's Get Married." So I play the progression, and as I'm playing the progression, he starts like singing the melody, right? And I'm laughing because it sounds ridiculous to me. Because he can't sing. If I'm so start laughing, he's like, "Man, fuck you." You know what I mean? He said, "Watch, this song's gonna be the shit." You know what I mean? And I'm okay, cool. I just wasn't expecting you to be singing like that. You know what I mean? And he finishes the hook. And then Brian and Brandon.
So he's walking around doing the whole me, and
he writes the whole
together. Yeah.
He writes the whole. As I'm coming up with the progression, he's writing the hook. He wrote that hook fair and square. You know what I mean?
God.
So, when the guys get there, he's like, "Yo, I got a hook." He sings the hook to them. So they take it and they kind of make it theirs. You know what I mean? And then they write the verses. And Let's Get Married. The second day of me being in the studio with Jermaine Dupri was Let's Get Married.
Okay, so when you doing these records, are you knowing like, man, we just did 2 smashes, man? Like,
it feels like it. I don't know it at this point. It's just like, man, I'm just happy to be in the studio with Jermaine Dupri. It's like, yo, this dude is fucking JD, man. It's like, I don't even know where this is gonna take me. You know what I mean? Like at this point, I'm not even looking past the Jagged Edge album. At this point, I feel like I'm only working with him on this album. So I'm just trying to take in whatever I could take in, because I'm like, when this album's finished, I probably won't work on him again. You know what I mean? Like that was the way I was thinking. Like, okay, we probably, he signed. He basically, I did a deal. Noontime did a deal for this album. So I was like, okay, when we finish with this album, we're probably done. You know what I mean? I didn't have the foresight at the time that we were going to end up being, that's going to be 22 years later. You know what I mean? I at that point, I was just thinking in the moment. You know what I'm saying? And 23 years later now, I was just thinking in the moment. So we do Let's Get Married, and what this does is, you got to understand, I'm learning. As I'm doing these sessions, I'm just taking in all the information. So now I'm compounding that information I got from Jermaine Dupri on top of all the information I got, you know what I mean, being from Houston, then going to Noontime, you know what I mean? So now, mind you, we're still working on other projects. So me and Bryan and Brandon, so we're working on Tony Braxton, we're working on, you know what I mean, at Noontime. So we had a song called I Don't Wanna that ended up being on Jagged's fourth album, the album Hard. But that was supposed to be on J Heartbreak. And what happened was there was a group that Noontime had called Absolute. Ended up giving the song to Absolute. So I had to come up with another song. So I was like, yo, we got to come up with another record, to replace I Don't Wanna. And that's how He Can't Love You came about. So we ended up doing He Can't Love You. And that's the first time I ever did a song and felt like, oh, this song's a hit. Like, okay, I think I've cracked the code. You know what I mean? And because everybody who while we were making the song, people were coming in the studio, walking the studio like, yo, because Noontime was, like I said, just a hub of people always in and out. You know what I'm saying? So as we're making the song, people are walking into the B room like, yo, man, what is this song y'all making? You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, like, I know I got something. We have something here. You know what I mean? And sure enough, I didn't even think it was going to happen. Sure enough, they played the song for the A&R meeting at Social Def. And Jermaine was like, yo, this is your first single. And I think that might have been the, like, maybe first time, outside of, like, the Social Def-based All-Stars, that might have been the first time that another producer, an outside producer, other than Jermaine Dupri, had a first single on one of his artists. You think about Escape, you think about, you know, all of his artists. Brad, you know, he produced all of it. You know what I mean? And for me to have the first single on a Social Def label that wasn't produced by Jermaine Dupri was a big deal.
It's a big deal. And then then y'all go, He Can't Love You. Y'all go, is it Keys to the Range next? Mm-hmm. Then y'all go, Let's Get Married was next?
Keys to the Range was first.
That's what I thought was first.
Keys to the Range was first. They put it out because that was on a soundtrack, In Too Deep. So Keys to the Range was first. Yeah. Then they put out He Can't Love You.
So He Can't Love You was the album single.
First single.
I got you.
Keys to the Range was on the soundtrack.
I thought Keys to the Range was first, but when you said it was first, I was like, okay, maybe it was second.
Keys to the Range was on a soundtrack though.
Got you.
That came out on the soundtrack first. They just ended up putting on the album, but it was on the soundtrack. Yeah. But the first single for J Heartbreak officially was He Can't Love You.
Dog, and that's one of the first, like, I mean, I had R&B albums before, but this was when I'm probably like 10th grade when this shit come out, you know what I mean? Went to the store and got that, bruh. Never came out the deck.
One of them albums, man, you know, I've been blessed to be a part of a lot of classic albums, man, you know, and I look back and I'm like, shit, you know, we were just having fun, you know, we were just having fun.
So, I mean, after y'all do Jagged Edge, what is it? Does Usher come after that?
Not directly after. What happened was I just kept going over there. You know, he just kept calling me like, yo, man.
So y'all did the deal, and then it's just kind of like...
Yeah, and we did a deal for Jagged. And then whatever him and Ryan spoke about, that was just ended up being the deal for however long we it was just, okay, well, cool. Brian's going to get paid this. We're going to make sure he gets his publishing. And Ryan and them made the deal, and it was, okay, cool. You know what I mean? And he just kept calling me. Hey, can you come tomorrow? I was like, oh, I'm on the way. You know what I'm saying? And we just was working every day. And then, so the very next project really was Mariah. So we did some songs for Mariah on her Rainbow album. And that was really the next thing. I did Mariah next, which was crazy to me. Cause
that's what I was gonna say. I mean, how is this now? Like, bro, you from Houston.
That shit was
you just
crazy.
Over here, you done met JD. All right, cool. You know what I mean?
That
but
shit
now
was
Mariah
crazy.
is coming here.
Mariah coming to the house with the security guards and all that, and that shit was nuts. You know what I'm saying? Like, my first time meeting Mariah Carey, you know, was just crazy. You know what I'm saying? And we did the song called How Much, and it actually featured Usher. So I basically killed two birds with one stone. You know, it was like my first time working with Mariah, my first time working with Usher, and Jermaine was the vehicle for that. You know what I mean? And that song ended up on the album, and then we just kept working. It was like he kept calling me. You know what I mean? He kept calling me, and I was like, yo, this is him right here. Just text me. That's funny as hell. Hold on. I'm sorry, I'm just hitting this thing right now. Yeah. So we do the Mariah song, and then, but while this is happening, right? All this. Let me tell you what's crazy, and I know I'm going all the way around because as it's coming back to me as I'm thinking about it. At the same time, Ideal comes out. So Get Gone comes out. It's a hit. He Can't Love You comes out. It's a hit. So now this is when the first run starts happening. All this stuff is happening at the same time though. So as I'm working with JD, I'm also working at noontime. So literally what I would do, my girlfriend at the time, because I still didn't have a car, my girlfriend at the time, what I would do is she would take me to noontime, right? And I would be at noontime working for hours or whatever. And then she would come and pick me up from noontime and then take me to College Park to work with JD.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or she would let me drop her off at home and I would drive her car to College Park to work with JD. You know what I mean? So this was like a daily thing, right? So just imagine the shit that I'm like accumulating at this point. This is when the Aaliyah thing happens. You know, so I end up working with Aaliyah. The Tony Braxton thing happens. All these things start kind of just falling into place. You know what I mean?
And the Aaliyah and the Tony Braxton, this is all through noontime?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So
I remember T. Gray told me it came out there for the Aaliyah session.
But T. Gray came out for a few things. He was there. T. Gray was with me for a lot of that early stuff. T. Gray, because he would just come to Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like, yo, just stay at the apartment. T. Gray would come, Terrell would come. He was there for a lot of that early stuff. You know what I mean? I was like, yo, just come, man, just come, post up, man, come, you know what I'm saying? Come to the house. You know what I mean? He'd come out there on the weekends and just like, you know, he was there for. T. Gray's actually on Where the Party At.
He told me that. He did.
He's literally
he told me that.
me and him doing the crowd thing. You know what I'm saying? On Where the Party At. You know what I'm saying? Terrell was there for a lot of that early stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'll never forget. It was like, you know, I got the call. Jermaine built the new studio, and I got the call for Usher. It was like, yo, hey man, we starting Usher tomorrow. You know, and I was like, shit, you know. And we go to the studio, and the very first song we write is "You Got It Bad." Like that's the first song we did in that studio. The first song we did for his album. Usher didn't cut no other songs. This was the first song for the album.
So are y'all doing everything at one time? Y'all do the music, he does the vocals, everything?
Yeah, the same day. So what
whole
happened
song
was,
same night?
Yeah, so we, I got meet Jermaine at the studio, and then Usher comes. I learned 2 valuable lessons that day. I learned a valuable lesson in production. I learned a valuable lesson in songwriting. The songwriting lesson that I learned was the conversations, like the song is inside the conversation. Because we spent time talking to Usher for like maybe 2 or 3 hours before we started writing the song, you know what I mean? And everything we talked about ended up being what the song was, you know what I'm saying? And so I learned that from Jermaine, like, oh shit. Okay, JD's just, you know what I'm saying?
He's just tapping in.
Just tapping into this nigga's like psyche. I'm sorry. Tapping into his psyche and tapping into what's happening in his life. Okay. Versus how we was writing songs, we just writing, just kind of like, okay, you know,
here's
trying
a
to
scenario.
you know, okay, you know what I mean. But for Usher, it had to be specific. It had to be very, very like tailor made for, you know what I mean, him. And that's why I feel like it's so difficult for people to really write for him. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to talk to him. Like you have to be in it, you know what I mean? Of course, he'll sing songs that just, you know, he'll sing whatever. But if you really want to get like, you know, the essence of who he is as a person, and you want to perform it the proper way, you have to talk to him. You know what I'm saying? He's that kind of artist. You have to spend time with him. You know what I mean? And I learned that. And also learned that Usher to JD is Michael to Quincy. You know what I'm saying? Like I learned that producer-artist relationship is how important it is working with them. You know what I'm saying? Because like they were intertwined, like their lives were like entangled. You know what I mean? And that's why the music was so good. You know what I mean? And as a producer, I learned that less is more. That was the first lesson I learned. And, you know, because before that, I would do a lot in my production. Like I would put all kinds of shit in my production. You know what I mean? Long ass intros, and you know what I mean. I would try to just fill the track up with so much shit. And working with Jermaine on that particular project specifically, I learned that less is more. Like You Got It Bad has maybe 7 sounds in it. Kick, snare, a hi-hat, like a 9-line guitar sound, wind, fucking bass line, and like a guitar solo. The whole song. There's only harmonies and little parts like the verses and stuff, but the hook is unison. You know what I mean? Like that song is so simple yet incredibly powerful. You know what I mean? Because you were able to really hear the lyric, feel his performance. It wasn't drowned out in a bunch of harmonies and shit like that. And I was like, and it felt like the song was gonna be big. You know what I'm saying? It felt like, oh, this song's gonna be huge. Especially when we put the guitar solo in there, I was like, oh,
now we out of here.
This song is crazy. You know what I mean? And I learned that those are the two, but probably the most important lessons I learned as a producer coming up was that day. You know what I mean?
So I mean, after that, does the Nivea and all that come out?
All that shit's kind of merged together. Nivea was signed to Noontime.
No shit.
Right? So how the Nivea thing came about was that I was producing Nivea for Noontime. You know what I mean? And my boy Dent, who was a producer at Noontime, he also was signed he was a Bad Boy Hitman. My boy Dent brought Nivea to that's how I met Nivea, through Dent. He brought it to the studio. He was like, yo, Brian, man, I got this artist I want you to work with. And then they ended up doing it. Noontime did a deal with her, and we started making records on her. Me and Jagged Edge we were writing for her. So we made a bunch of songs on her. And Don't Mess With My Man was just one of the songs that we made for her. You know what I mean? And the deal with Noontime, I think, kind of fell through some kind of way or whatever. And she ended up doing a deal with Jive. And I don't even know who played Don't Mess With My Man for Jimmy Maness. I can't remember. Jimmy Maness was her A&R. I think he's the one that actually signed her. And I don't even remember how he got the song. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like she might have played him the demo, and you know what I mean? I don't know how he got the song. All I know is that all of a sudden we was doing a deal memo for the song, and they were trying to put the joint out, you know, as a duet, as a first single. I don't even know how. All I know is, let me tell you what's crazy. I didn't even know they were doing the video. I got a call. It was like, yo, we're shooting a video. We're on Cheshire Bridge. We're shooting a video for Don't Mess With My Man. And I was like, to what track? You know? It was like, yeah, to the original track. I was like, oh, no. Please don't put this song out with that track on it. That's why if you look up Don't Mess With My Man, there's 2 versions, because I went to the video and was like, yo, please do not put this version out, because I hated that first version that we did. You know what I'm saying? I was like, please do not do this. I have the vocals. I'm going to redo the track. Went back to Noontime. I redid the track that day while they were shooting the video. Went back down there, played the track for Jimmy Maness. He was like, I love it. Let's mix it. Ended up mixing it I think the next day, mixed it, mastered it, and then they ended up having to put that version of the song in the video. But it was crazy because Jive had already sent the first version out. You know what I'm saying? So radio was kind of already playing the first version, and I was like, oh my God, man, I did not want that version. You know what I mean? And you know, but then the remix ended up, you know, becoming, you know, the hit record. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But that shit was crazy, because I remember when I got the call, I was like, you guys shooting a video? Wait a second. You know what I mean? Like, I hate that version that I did, man. Y'all got to give me another, you know, we got to do this again. You know what I mean? And under pressure, went and fucking did it, and the shit ended up being a hit.
Man, okay, so, I mean, after that, though, what do you, what comes after all this, man? Because I mean,
all this stuff I'm trying, you know, all of it's kind of merging together.
Because we're not at Confessions yet, I don't think. We're not at Confessions yet.
I do Little Mo, I do Shantae Moore, it's a few things that I do before we get to Confessions. I did a lot of shit before we got to Confessions, actually. That which is, you know, hits, you know, mild hits, you know, R&B hits, things that we, you know what I mean? I'm starting to stack up #1 R&B records. You know what I mean? Is it a Genuine record?
Stingy?
Yeah. Stingy came out right before
Confessions, right? Yeah.
So Stingy was on the Barbershop 2 soundtrack. There's a funny story with that. Me and Jonte did that song and sent it to we sent it to Epic for Genuine. Nobody heard it. Nobody never hit a song. Some kind of way, an A&R named Victor Cade, who wasn't even A&R at the time, he was just like an intern at the time. And what they would do back in the day with interns or people who were coming up, you know, when you would send DATs in or send tapes in, they would end up being like in the mailroom or like big ass boxes of tapes. And they would tell the interns, yo, go through these tapes or go through these DATs and see what you can find. You know what I'm saying? And Victor Cade went through a box of DATs all day and fucking found this song that we sent that nobody had heard. Because of course on the DAT it says, you know, me and Jonte's name. So he's like, yo, why is this DAT in this box? You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking B Cox and Jonte, you know what I mean? Puts the DAT in, he's like, oh my God, this is fucking a smash. You know what I mean? Like, why is this here? You know what I mean?
Right.
So he goes to his, you know, his supervisor, which was Marvin Peart at the time, who was the head of A&R at the time. He's like, yo, I found this fucking DAT. It's B Cox and Jonte. It's noontime DAT. The song's called Stingy. It's a smash. Need it for Genuine. And then he has Marvin. Marvin hears it. He's like, oh, this is a smash. And then Victor gets promoted. Marvin gets, you know what I'm saying, Genuine to cut the song. And it just, and then, you know, and it ends up on being like the lead singer for Barbershop 2.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And just a great record for Genuine.
Yeah, just such a great Genuine record. And it was crazy. We had did songs with Genuine before that. Then, you know, nobody ever was doing an Aaliyah thing. We did Aaliyah. There's a record called, the Aaliyah record, Missing You. Mm-hmm. That originally was Genuine.
No
Genuine
shit.
cut that song first. And then it was like going to be a duet between Genuine and Missy. Genuine and Aaliyah. So we ended up doing the duet, and then Aaliyah ended up wanting the song, and she cut the song, you know, 100%. You know what I'm saying? Because there was some discrepancies with Genuine and Barry Hankerson at the time. You know what I mean? But so we worked with G before. You know what I mean? So I don't know how he didn't get this song at the time, but then when they heard it, okay, cool. He killed it, and it became a huge record.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then how Confessions happen is really interesting, right? Because you understand, doing all this, I'm still working with Jermaine on a daily. You know what I mean? So we're working on different projects, different albums, different whatever. We do Brat, we do, you know what I mean? We do Bow Wow, we do, you know what I'm saying? You know, he has all these projects coming out, so I'm just working with him on all these projects. So people don't even realize that, like, Bow Wow's first 2 albums was produced entirely by me and Jermaine. There was no other producers.
Are there any things are there any things just in general that you're kind of like struggling with as you're going through this process, or is it just kind of just a breeze that you?
What I'm struggling with has nothing to do with the music business during this period. What I'm struggling with is the characters that I have around me, that I've put around me. You know, being from Houston, we have this kind of, when it comes to certain, you know, people, we have this kind of distorted view of loyalty, and we may put loyalty, we may be loyal to the wrong group of people. You know what I mean?
I agree,
for
100%.
specific reasons, right?
Yeah.
And during this time, I wasn't struggling with the music or the music business. That was going lovely. Actually, it's a wonder that I was able to do the shit that I was able to do with the people that I had in my personal circle. You know what I mean? Because there was like 2 different circles, right? There was a business circle that was completely on autopilot. You know what I mean?
This is JD. This is all.
Noontime was on autopilot. That was working beautifully. My mom was working seamless with them. JD, that shit was working beautifully. My mom and Diane and JD, everything, my business was going beautifully. You know what I'm saying? I was, you know, we have this thing, you grow up, and my mother used to tell me when I was a kid, like, you know, keep your friends close, you know, keep the people that you came up with, keep them close, you know, as close as possible, because this business is treacherous and shit like that, and you want to have the people you came up with, you want them with you. And that's good advice if the people around you want something out of life too, right? It's terrible advice if the people around you are just looking to leech off you or looking to you for all the answers. You know what I mean? For example, right? Like you see Sean is here. Sean has I've been friends with Sean since middle school, right? So there's certain people that are around me from when I was a kid. But the difference is the mentality. You know what I'm saying? Like Sean has a go-get-it mentality. So it's not I'm going to use Bryan for everything that, you know what I mean? It's how can I help Bryan and also help myself? You know what I mean? Because I give the platform for everybody to come up. You know what I'm saying? But it's about what you want to do. Like, it's about how you know what I mean? It's not about me. At the end of the day, you can't be just looking to me to pay for your meals and pay for, you know what I mean? Like, what do you bring it to the table? And what happened was there was just a cast of people around me that really didn't know how to have my best interest. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really, I don't blame or fault nobody. You know what I mean? It's just, if I was the first person to come out of the bubble and make something happen, and we all have this false sense of like, oh, if he makes it, we all make it. That's true to an extent, but you got to put some work in. You know what I'm saying? And it can't be about using a person. It has to be about, it can't be about misusing a person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it's okay to be used.
Because we can use each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't mind being a vehicle and, helping. You know what I mean? I'll give a person my last. You know what I mean? I have no problem being used. I have a problem being misused. You know what I mean? And at the time, I didn't know the difference. You know what I mean? And also, we have people who are older than you. There's one person in particular who, who's older than you, who his shit didn't really go the way he thought it would go, or wanted it to go. And I'm trying to help him move it along. But if you're bitter about your shit not going well, and you're looking at your youngin', and your youngin' is doing well, you know what I'm saying? And the youngin' is helping you. If you can't get out of your feelings with that, that becomes destructive. It becomes dangerous. You know what I mean? And friends become foes because that jealous spirit, bro, is crazy.
It's a dangerous thing, man.
And that is what I didn't anticipate. I told my mom when shit started changing and people started really, really revealing who they were, you know what I mean, to me. Me and my mother had a conversation, and my mother was like, yo, I have to apologize to you because I told you, the advice I gave you was like, keep your boys close, you know what I mean? And don't change. And it's inevitable, right? I tried to stay the same person. But first of all, changing is inevitable. There's nothing wrong with changing. But what we don't count on, what I didn't anticipate, was the people around me changing their perspective of me. So if I'm like in a space where I'm like, yo, I'm the same Bryan, right? I'm trying to be the same Bryan. I'm trying not to, you know what I mean? But if I'm not even embracing the change that's happening, I'm not embracing the fact that I have #1 records. I'm not embracing the fact, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to be the same person, right? But people's perspective change. So now when we go places, it's just expected that, oh shit, well, Bryan got it. Or people I haven't seen in a while, big shot, big timer. Like I didn't walk in the room, you know what I'm saying? I didn't walk in the room on no shit with y'all. I walked in the room the same way. You know what I mean? I walked in the room dapping people up, you know what I mean? I didn't walk in the room high-siding on people. I walked in the room the same as I was a couple years before.
You greeted me different.
You greeted me different. You came and said, Oh, big time, what's up? Oh, he big time now. You can't talk to nobody. Like, wait a second, I just walked in the room, fam. You know what I mean? I greeted you. You know what I mean? So that's the part that I didn't really anticipate. You know what I'm saying? Being in the business, I didn't anticipate people's perspective to change about me. And then when that happens, people look, they're trying to figure out how they can get something out of you. You know what I mean? And I didn't anticipate any of that. You know what I'm saying? That was something that I was not mentally or emotionally prepared for. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because the music is still good. You know what I mean?
So that's not being affected by none of this other bullshit.
Let me tell you what's crazy, dog. My business was so tight, I never had no problem with my business. You hear these horror stories about people, getting in fuck deals and shit like that. I never had that issue. You know what I'm saying? I was truly blessed to team up with some guys who had, a moral code. They had street code too. Noonie and Chris and Ryan and Terry come from a different, they come from a different cloth. You know what I mean? And their perspective, because in the streets, you fuck somebody over, you get killed. You know what I mean? So their perspective was very different. Like, they were fair, like overly fair. You know what I'm saying? And because they were so fair, when I, did the deal with JD, we didn't even have to talk to because sometimes when people do deals with people like that, you're not even talking to him. You're talking to attorneys, you're talking to the people that handle, his business. Mm-hmm. But because I was signed to a crew that was cut from a different cloth, Ryan and Jermaine had a personal relationship. That was just a conversation with them. You know what I mean? And it was like, we're going to do this. Okay, we can do that. Okay, boom. All right. It was no red tape. So any deal that I was in, every deal was great. I was never ever in a bad deal. You never even hear me talk about me being in a bad deal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was always in great deals. So my business was always tight. That was never the issue. It was just, me, the growing pains of, wanting to help friends and trying to help, people who really needed to really help themselves first, you know what I mean? And people's expectations. You know what I mean? You're supposed to do this, man, because we this, that, and the third. No, I'm not supposed to do shit. You know what I mean? You're a grown-ass man, and we are in the room. We're all, I brought you to the room. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We're in the room.
Here's the water.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I gave you all the tools. I'm making your songs. I'm doing all, you know what I mean? We're in the room. You don't be, if your energy is off, I can't help that they don't want to fuck with you because your energy is fucked. I can't help that. All I can say is that I brought you to the room, and people's perspective on reality, where they are versus where they want to be versus how they act. These are things that I just, at a young age, I wasn't even prepared. Like I said, I wasn't prepared to deal with. As an older person now, I look back and I'm like, damn, I wish I could have been able to articulate that. But even if I was able to articulate certain things, they weren't going to be able to receive it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just, I wish that I was harder on, I wish I'd have dealt with those situations better. I wish I would have cut people off sooner. You know what I'm saying? And dealt with the I didn't want to deal with any adversity. So I let people hang on, and I dealt with people longer than I probably should have. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm non-confrontational, so I didn't want to deal with adversity. And they'd be my friends, and you love your friends. You want to keep. I kept, if I'm successful, you know what I mean? I want to keep pouring because I'm like, yo, I'm you see what I'm doing. Well, you see, you're here. Let's go. And I just, I wish that I would have been able to pinpoint my friends that had the potential, that saw it, you know what I mean, and that wanted something for themselves versus the people who were just looking for me to do it. You know what I mean? And that's like, you know, when I think about adversity, was the only adversity I was going through. You know what I'm saying? You know, like I said, my business was tight. I look back and I'm like, yo, I really did good business. You know what I mean? I was really blessed to be with people who cared about me, who still care about me. You know what I mean? And didn't let me do terrible deals.
Yeah.
You know?
Is there ever a point where you go from Noontime directly to working with JD?
Well, no,
or has the relationship always been this way?
It's always been. I mean, because my Noontime deal ran out. I mean, you know, I wasn't in that deal forever. Right. You know what I mean? That deal was a 4-year deal. But, so then of course the Noontime deal ends. But I'm still independent. You know, I'm an independent producer. I never signed directly to So Def because it just, you know, to be perfectly honest, the opportunity, it just didn't matter. You know, we were so locked in, and, you know, I was only charging a certain amount of money per track when I would work with him. So there was a cap on that. You know what I mean? You know, I couldn't charge no more than this amount of money. So whatever he charged for a track, I didn't even really, you know, it didn't matter. He, you know, Jermaine might have charged $100,000 for a track. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? As long as I got what we agreed to get, you know what I mean? And my main concern was never really the upfront money. My main concern was always my publishing. You know what I mean? My main concern was always like, yo, make sure the percentages was that percent. You know what I mean? That was always my, you know what I mean? That was always my main concern. You know, the little money we was making up front, producer fee, okay, cool. That's, of course, that's little living money. That's rent money. That's where, you know, I'm making, you know, tens of thousands of dollars doing that. Cool. You know what I mean? Per track, cool. You know what I mean? I'm good on that. But my percentage right? Okay, cool. As long as that percentage say what it gotta say, and that check come every 3 months, I'm good. You know what I mean? And so, you know, we never had to go into like no official deal because it was just it worked. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, and usually when deals come into play, people feel like they're not getting their fair shot or what they feel like they're worth, or he think he's gonna sign me for this and that, third. And it really worked out for our benefit for us not to be in like an exclusive deal like that. It worked out because now we're partners, like proper. You know what I mean? And we have you know, it's not, you know, and that took time. You know, that happened maybe, I would say the proper partnership happened maybe 12 years ago when we started chopping down the paper, the producer fees, you know what I mean, more evenly, you know what I'm saying? But it just worked out. It worked better for us, you know what I mean? Because I feel like people, when you sign to somebody, a lot of times artists use that as an excuse to, you know, when things don't go a certain way, you want to point the finger and blame somebody, you know what I'm saying? We never had that, you know what I mean? He's had that with other people. You know what I'm saying? With other, you know, people that were signed to him that, you know, they talk shit about him and stuff like that, you know. And sometimes it goes back to, what did you do? You know, how did you maximize the opportunity? He gave you an opportunity. Did you maximize it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I think that we use being signed to somebody as a cop-out. Being signed, doing a deal with somebody, because you're not signed to anybody, you're doing a deal. How did you maximize the opportunity? You maximized the opportunity. Did you say, yo, I'm down with So Def? Like the way that fucking DJ Khaled maximizes the Rock Nation shit. You know what I mean? Did you maximize it?
Yeah.
You know? No ID was signed to So Def. He maximized that shit and then moved on, and now he's, you know what I mean? You don't ever hear No ID say anything negative about Jermaine Dupri. You know what I'm saying? Because he got that opportunity, and that opportunity led him back to Kanye, then that opportunity led him, you know what I mean, to Jay, led him back to Kanye, you know what I mean? And then now, No ID is No ID.
Yeah.
So when you are doing these partnerships or these deals with these named people, or people with a name, or people with a brand, it's really not about what they can do for you. Because if they provide the check, if you get an advance or you get a check, and to a degree. It's about what you guys do for each other. But it's really about how you maximize being associated. You know what I'm saying? Can you maximize it? You know what I mean? You know, are they gonna, you know, if somebody calls me and say, hey, yo, you working with so-and-so and so? They say they working with you. And I'm like, oh, yeah. He or she, they fucking fly. They dope as fuck. You should do business with them. That's what that relationship is about. If somebody calls Jermaine Dupri about me, he's going to tell him, yo, hell yeah. Somebody call Puff Daddy about me, he's going to, yeah. B. Cox is that nigga. You know what I mean? You know, it's about maximizing the situation.
Yeah. Talk about when y'all go back in to do confessions, though, man.
Yeah, so the first song we do is Burn, man. Like, literally everything that happens with us is like the first song. So the first song we do for confessions is Burn, right? And then we ended up doing another song called Do It To Me. And then he was like, yo, man, Usher want to work in L.A. because Usher was back and forth at the time. So we go to L.A. and we work at Babyface's studio and we do what would end up being Confessions Part 1. But it was, the name of the song was called All Bad. And so we do the song. We didn't know if Usher was gonna sing it because of, you know, it was so, you know what I mean? It felt so controversial and it was like it might have been really close, you know what I mean? Because this is before social media, before, you know what I mean? So you could literally, you know, have a wife in Atlanta and have a girlfriend and some kids in LA, you know what I mean? And nobody, you know, and you could kind of get away with it, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, you can't really do that shit now because motherfuckers is gonna,
yeah, you're gonna be,
you know,
so,
you know, but back then it was, and that's the thing, we saw a partner, but that's what happens. Me and Jermaine, we had a partner who, you know, was living that kind of life. We saw the nigga in the mall. That's how the whole thing, like, you know, the Beverly Center, like, man, not giving a damn who sees me. We saw the nigga in the mall. Now, we had just seen him in Atlanta. You know, familyed up, whole thing. We know his girl, you know what I mean? We know they just had a baby, all this shit. See the nigga in LA like a couple months later, and he's like familyed up with a whole nother situation. And he was he was bold, like, you know, you would think this, you know, you got a side thing, you ain't, you know, he was out there, like, just, you know, I'm like, yo, is that song?
That's wild.
And that's how the whole All Bad concept came about. And then, so we did the song, he came, Usher sang it, and it was great. And then we get back to Atlanta, and JD's like, yo, man, at the time, R. Kelly had Ignition Part 2. And we were like, yo, we got to do a part 2 to this song. Like, this song, we gotta extend the story. And Jermaine was like, yo, I got it. I got, you know. So we started doing the track, and he's like, I got the story. And then he starts spitting the story out. And I'm like, oh, this shit's gonna be crazy. Because it was, you know, I knew that it was his life. You know what I mean? You know, I watched, you know, what was going on with him personally. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be great. You know, we're gonna be able to sell this. And then Usher.
And that shit sold, boy.
Oh, yeah. Usher did the song. It was like crazy. So we basically set the tone for Confessions, like we set the tone for 8701. And then so they take the, you know, LA and Usher, they take those songs and then they go fill in the blanks. So Jimmy and Terry came in and filled in the blanks. Dre and Vidal came in and filled in the blanks. They went back in with Pharrell. They went back in with Rich Harrison, and this album starts coming together between Mark Pitts, Dow Jones. I was working at Arista at the time. Jermaine was the president of Black Music Era. So between all of us, this shit just starts coming together. You know what I'm saying? People are bringing songs in. Shit just starts coming together, and then the next thing you know, at the end of it, we thought we were finished with the album, and Shakir, you know, my man, you know, God bless his soul, Shakir came in with Yeah. He put that whole thing together with Lil Jon, Sean Garrett, JQ, and he came in with Yeah. And then the funny thing about Yeah was originally on the Freaka Leak beat.
Oh, man.
So when our first time hearing Yeah, it was on the Freaka Leak beat, right? 2 weeks later, because Lil Jon would give everybody beat CDs, 2 weeks later, fucking Freaka Leak is on the radio. So we go We go to the A&R meeting, and LA's like, yo, I'm driving my son to school the other day, and I hear my motherfucking record on the radio, and it's some motherfucker named Petey Pablo. You know what I mean? And he's going off on the A&R. You know, all the A&Rs like, yo, how the fuck did this happen? You know what I mean? And then Shake has to go and tell John, like, John, man, you got to fix this. You know what I mean? Because we would drop this record, and now, you know, you got to fix it. John remakes the beat. You know, really don't remake the beat. He just changes the, like, synth line at the top. And then John leaks it, and the rest is history. Comes out, sells 1 million copies the first week. You know, they had shot a video to Burn. The Burn video was already shot. Burn was going to be the first single before Yeah. And then they brought Yeah in, and Yeah just shifted everything. It was like, oh, shit. And actually
John
worked
was on
out.
fire. It was crazy.
Yeah. And it worked out better because I feel like Burn was a huge hit because Yeah was a huge hit. You know what I mean? And I think that it needed to be a tempo. It needed to be a moment like that. You know, it felt like a movement. You think about it. It was Lil Jon, Ludacris on fire. Lil Jon was on fire. It's after Damn, you know, after the Youngbloods. Like, Lil Jon was on fire. And Usher, and it was Atlanta moment. I feel like we wouldn't have had, I mean, Burn was a huge record, but I feel like we wouldn't have had the momentum. You know, Burn would have been a hit, but it would have, you know, a ballad is always, you know, it's work. You know, Yeah was just like instant.
Yeah.
It was just like, you know what I mean? And the video was fire, and Usher was killing it. It was just the perfect storm. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, to lead us into Burn, Confessions, and Caught Up, and all the singles that ended up being big records, My Boo, and all that shit. You know what I mean? And that shit sold 1 million records the first week. I was just like dumbfounded. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, wow. You know, and then Burn came out and was like basically entered in the top 5, and it was number one. Burn Confessions was like swapping number 1 spots for like 12 weeks or some shit like that. You know what I mean? So one week Burn would be number 1, the next week Confessions would be number 1. It was like, you know, it was just some ill shit. Like, and like I said, the business was beautiful. You know what I mean? I didn't really get to really.
Wait, so while Confessions is going on, you still got the personal stuff going on?
Oh, the personal shit didn't end till the personal shit went on for years, man. Like, I look back on it now and I could say, oh, this is what happened. I was just in it. I wanted to keep my partners around me. So I didn't look at it as a bad thing at the time. You know what I mean? Even though there were people inside that would be like, trying to Sean would pull my tail like, yo, B, man, you know what I'm saying? Or like my manager, Chris, would be like, yo, Chris was on me like every day about like, yo, Cox, who are these niggas? You know, why? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need all these people. They're sucking you dry. You know what I mean? But I'm like, nah, man, it's my folk. I felt like I had the momentum to put niggas on. So no, man, I got this, man. These are my people. You know, I'm not gonna leave my people behind, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what it felt like. Don't leave my people behind. But it's like, you know, people got to take care of themselves. You know what I'm saying? You know, don't get left behind. Yeah. Keep up. Yeah. You know? And like I said, it's a wonder that all this shit was happening, that I was having all this success with all of this weight. You know what I mean? I think back like, yo, if I didn't have all that, if I was lighter back then, you know what I mean? I did all that shit with the weight on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, just imagine if I was lighter. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you got to go through what you got to go through to kind of, all this shit builds character. You know what I mean? All of it builds character. And, you know, some people stand the test of time. Some people are momentarily. You know what I mean? But all this shit was happening while all the success was happening.
So, okay, talk about how do you get involved with the Be Without You? Talk about the Be Without You record.
Okay, so I've been trying to get on Mary. You know, trying to work with Mary, you know, submitting songs for each, you know, she would put out albums and I would, just do the whole submission process. And I met Don Pooh, who was like really, you know, like Mary's confidant. He was like really close to Mary and working with her. At one point he was managing her, but he was like, you know, Don Pooh's like one of her close friends. And you can, if you needed to get anything to Mary, you could, you know, get it to Don Pooh, and he can play it for her, whatever. So, but that was before she got married. And then her and Kendu get together. They get married, and Kendu, we have is a friend with like my boy Damon. So Damon, who was like, I would say he was like a silent partner in Noontime. Damon and Chris and all they all family, like cousins and shit. So Damon was very cool with Kendu, and he was telling Kendu like, "Yo, man, I'm telling you, you know, you got to work with my guys, man. You got to work with Noontime. I'm telling you, these motherfuckers is fire. You know, Jazzy Faye, B Cox, these niggas is on fire. I'm telling you, you got to work with them. You know." So Damon was in doing.
Wait, so Jazzy Faye was over there? At Noontime?
Yeah, Jazzy Faye was not in Noontime.
Oh
yeah.
shit.
So he was basically, you know, in dude's ear. You know, Damon's in Kendu's ear, like every other day. Like, I'm telling you, man, you need to meet my boy Chris. You need to meet with these motherfuckers, man. You know what I mean? And at the time, Chris was working at Warner Chappell too. My manager was working at Warner Chappell, so he had just signed Justice League, right?
Oh man.
And he signed this writer named Dave Young. So, Justice League, we had a group. Me and Chris had a group called Bella. And we made these songs on them. Dave, I wrote these incredible songs on them. And Justice League made this record called No One Will Do. That was like fire.
Wait, Bella, yes. I had this shit on vinyl.
Yeah. We had a record called
Fire.
Yeah. So Bella, it was Bella, the first single was Bella and Rick Ross. Like it was, yeah. So Bella was my group, me and Chris's group. We had a company called Beat Factory.
Bro, they really used to push that in DJ pool.
Yeah,
like,
we was trying to get off the ground. Warner
shit.
Brothers, you know, it just was a different label back then. You know, we were really trying to get off the ground though. So Bella had a song called No One Will Do that Dave wrote that was crazy. And we were doing Bella's album and he was like, "Yo, man, we should probably play this song for Mary." You know what I'm saying? So he played Damon hooked up a meeting with Chris. I believe that's how it went. Damon hooked up a meeting with Chris. Chris played Kendu, Bella's version of No One Will Do, right? Kendu goes crazy, like, "Yo, I need this song for Mary," you know, whatever. So I was like, "Oh shit, it's yours," right? So Kendu hooks a meeting up with Mary and Chris and them. So Chris always goes with his stack of songs he's gonna play. Goes in there, and instead of playing Bella's version of No One Will Do, he ends up playing Dave's demo, right? Because he, you know, Mary, she loves singers, you know what I mean? Plays Dave's demo, and Mary goes crazy. Like, "Yo, like, I need this song right now. Who is this nigga singing?" Like, you know, it just goes to this whole thing, right? So they cut the song on the spot. No One Will Do. Justice League, Dave Young, they cut the song right on the spot. So at this point, I'm having some success with Mariah. We just did Emancipation. I did Chris Brown, so to Say Goodbye. So I'm still, you know, I'm like not even in the beginning of like full-fledged run. You know what I mean? I'm still being consistent. Jagged Edge albums are going, everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm stacking #1 R&B records, you know what I mean? So Chris is like, "Yo, we gotta get Cox in with Mary," you know? And I don't think that I was on the radar because a lot of the, you know, records I was making were like straight R&B joints, but then the huge joints were records I was making with Jermaine. So the Ushers, the Mariahs, all the stuff that was getting attention, I was basically, you know, second seat. It was like, you know, JD is JD, and I'm the wonder kid, you know, just in the shadows, you know, working, you know, doing what I do. So, We Belong Together comes out. And contrary to popular belief, people think I produced that record. I didn't produce that record. You know, I co-produced Shake It Off, Can I Get Your Number, Don't Forget About Us. But We Belong Together, there's a story there that's really interesting. And I'm not gonna get into that story, but it was, you know, there was a split. There was something that happened, a misunderstanding between me and JD that happened. And in the midst of that misunderstanding, We Belong Together happens. So I get a call from Jimmy Iovine, right? Jimmy Iovine and Kendu call me. "Chris, I've been on the ass over and over again. Jimmy Iovine and Kendu called me, and they're like, yo, we need a rhythmic ballad for Mary. You know, can you make a rhythmic ballad for Mary? And I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, yo, we need something kind of like, you know, Be Without You. And I mean, we're getting something like We Belong Together. And I was like, well, I didn't do that song, you know. So here's the deal. Being on the phone with an executive, if somebody tells you, hey, yo, we need a song like the song you did, We Belong Together, with the song you did with JD, I could have easily at that point said, okay, yeah, I got you. But I was like, no. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do that song, and if you guys want a song like that, you should call JD and Manuel, because they made that song. I didn't make that song. You know what I mean? So Jimmy was like, well, I'm on the phone with you. You know what I'm saying? He's like, can you make a song like that? And I was like, I can make a song better than that. You know, you have to kind of turn up the cockiness a little bit for executives to, you know what I mean? So he was like, well, do it. You know, cool. You know, so I called Jonte, who wrote We Belong Together, but, you know, Jonte, me and him have been working forever. I called him, I was like, yo, man, you want to get this Mary work? Let's do it. And I literally made that track in like 8 minutes. You know what I mean? Man. And then Jonte came to the studio, and like, the song might have taken 20 minutes to write, dog. Like total, like the track and lyrics. Like the track was 8 minutes. It might have taken him 10 minutes to write that. He didn't write anything down. He just top of the dome. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that we talked about was the concept. And I was like, yo, we need to do something, you know, your Mary's in love, you know, we need to do something that's reflective of that, and, you know, this, then the third. And John was like, I got it, you know. And he fucking killed it, nailed it. You know what I mean?
And so she hears it and just automatically.
Her and Kendu hear it. She I think she cut it the day that we sent her the track. She cut it that day. You know, from what I gather, she cut it that day, and then, you know, the whole production process happened. So then, you know, Ron Fair, who was the chairman of Geffen Records at the time, really worked closely with her. He did the string arrangements, and he, you know, kind of, you know, took the record and then made it, polished it a bit. You know what I mean? And I was with him through the whole process, and then we mixed the song, and shit blew up. You know what I mean?
Right. Didn't Billboard or something, what they write it as?
It's the number one, it's the greatest R&B song of all time.
It's crazy.
So what's crazy is that, you know, that was the first time an artist ever spoke my name. Now, I worked with a bunch of artists before, and they would do, you know, press, and nobody would ever say production by, you know, even though I would produce the singles, you know what I mean? But nobody would ever say, oh yeah, but I'm in the studio with my boy B. Cox. Like, that was the first time an artist on a major, like, scale was like, yo, this motherfucking B. Cox is the dude. And everywhere she went, she would do interviews everywhere she went. She'd be like, yo, Bryan-Michael Cox, Jonte Austin. Bryan-Michael Cox, I mean, everywhere she went. And that kind of currency is just priceless. Like, you can't buy
This is Mary J. Blige saying this, you know what I mean?
You can't buy that. So then, of course, at that point, my phone was ringing pretty consistently before that. But after that, she's going around saying my name. After that, the phones just go nuts. Like, I'm working on everybody at that point, from Gwen Stefani to, it just becomes this thing. You know what I mean? And I'd always credit Mary with that, because Mary, and granted, you know, a lot of other artists were my friends. You know what I mean? I didn't know Mary. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That was my first time really working with her, kicking it with her. You know what I'm saying? And she did that just on the strength. You know, there were people who were my friends who didn't go on TV and say we was in the studio. You know what I mean? You know, like that was and I understood the difference of when somebody speaks your name. You know what I mean? And puts power behind your name. Because I was making really good money beforehand. You know what I'm saying? But then when that happened,
when you put your name on it, it's a whole different.
We were able to demand more money. I had wild song deals. It just became a thing. You know what I mean? And I credit Chris too, because Chris was the one that was like, "Yo, we're gonna make sure that, you know, like Mary fuck with you. You know what I mean? We're gonna make sure you get that relationship. We're gonna make sure that, you know what I mean, that you guys connect on a level where she feels, you know what I mean, your spirit and wants to, you know what I mean, and wants to big you up, you know what I mean, and she did, like, in every way, you know what I'm saying, and that's when everything really shifted, man. That shit, like, went into high gear, you know what I mean, and I was already working on a bunch of shit, but then that shit just turned into.
Is there any call or any record you've done where you like, man, okay, I can't believe, like, we done a bunch of shit, but I can't believe I did this?
I mean, the Mary thing was pretty phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? To get that call and to actually make the biggest record. You know what I'm saying? Make her biggest, well, you know, data-wise, make her biggest record. That's pretty crazy. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you get a call from Mariah Carey is crazy. You know, the fact that I can call Mariah my friend and I could call her and be like, oh, Mariah, you want to come to the show and shit like that. You know what I mean? Or let me come see them babies. Or you know what I mean? Like, it's been a phenomenal, like I said, man, the music business has been incredible to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been, like, you know, I've had an incredible experience in the music business as far as that is concerned. You know what I mean? The ups and downs, you know, you're going to have ups and downs, and the business changed, the music changed, and the R&B kind of, you know, became not so cool, and EDM was cool, and hip-hop became the dominant, you know what I mean? So those years, you know, you got to just, Quincy Jones says, you know, take care of the valleys, the hills to take care of themselves, you know what I mean? So in life, there's always going to be hills and valleys, especially when it comes to this music business. But in totality, like, I've had an amazing time, man. You know what I'm saying? In the music business, you know, like I said, I just learned, I had a lot of personal lessons I had to learn. You know what I mean? You know.
Tell me, because before we get out of here, because I used to sit down and watch this shit all the time, man.
Studio Exposed? Living a Life.
Yes.
Living a Life.
Yes.
So we're bringing Living a Life back.
No shit.
Actually. You know, it's interesting. We're trying to figure out you know, Jermaine is working on what the platform is going to be. He's got a couple of people, you know, he's in talks with a couple of people as far as the platform is concerned. But we're bringing it back. I think we were so ahead of our time with that shit.
Very much so. I used to watch it all the time in the oceans and all that shit, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were so ahead of our time, you know, with that and with Studio Exposed and all that. I think we were just ahead of our time. And sometimes when you're that far ahead, you know, it's difficult to see it all the way through because it's like, you know, the tediousness of like filming every day, doing your own edits and all that shit. And we were giving it away. So I think that after a while, I was like, man, we keep, you know, YouTube is, you know, they're making money off our shit, you know, with ads and shit like that. And we, you know, and it was before they was doing ad revenue, you know, payments, you know what I mean? So we're like, yo, like, we're giving it away. Like, let's figure out a way to really make it something, you know what I mean? And it's just, you know, like I said, ups and downs, you know what I mean? But we're, like I said, I talked to JD, we talked about it 2 weeks ago. You know, just like bringing it back. He's already kind of doing it. We're in the studio with Anthony Hamilton. So we kind of, you know, that's kind of the start of, you know, bringing it back, you know what I mean, in the right way. Just us in the studio with artists, you know what I mean? And I'm going to, you know, start doing it on my own, you know, and bringing it back. It's time for us to bring it back. I feel like we always get asked about it. We get asked about the oceans all the time. You know, we're just trying to figure out the proper platform. You know what I'm saying? And I know JD's been talking to a bunch of people, so I'm pretty sure, you know, we'll have some news soon in regards to what it looked like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, man, I appreciate you coming through. You got anything before we close up? Before we get up out here?
Oh, man. Just follow me on Instagram if you're not following me already, at Bryan-Michael Cox. Everything is at Bryan-Michael Cox. So Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, everything is at Bryan-Michael Cox. Follow my company, Illustrating New Ideas. And, you know, I do a virtual party, Love Zone. So it's become a big, you know, a big deal online. So follow Love Zone Party. And then I do a Wednesday night in Atlanta called Ladies Love R&B, and we're doing that tonight in Houston. We do it monthly here. You know what I'm saying? Me and Donnie do that in Houston every month. So follow Ladies Love R&B ATL. for information in regards to that. So, yep.
That's what it is, well, man. I appreciate you coming through, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother, for
For
having me.
sure. It's the Donnie Houston Podcast. Bryan-Michael Cox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Donnie Houston.